down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag. Ayy, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday. 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. Today's guest embodies everything I talk about on this show. He's done it. He's built his companies up. He knows what it's like out there. And we're going to talk about what he's doing now. He's been on the show in the past, but I just love talking to seasoned entrepreneurs to help lay some gems out there for everybody. So I have Mr. Kyle Wilson back on the show. Kyle, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. And you're right. I should have just hit go live when you and I were talking before the show.
Well, hey, Chris, it's good to see you too, especially since you won't be at Manifest this year, which is, I think, where we hung out last year. And the reason you told me is quite interesting, right? You're going all in with your brokerage this year, and I couldn't think of a better time to do it, right? If you've gotten through the last couple hard years, I think there's only good stuff out on the horizon. So I support that, but tell us more about that, Chris. What's your brokerage doing? What is going hard for you look like?
Yeah, no, and that's it's a great question, and I put this out there because I like documenting the realities of building stuff from nothing, Kyle, because I think in today's environment, it's just so easy to posture online and make it look like you're doing way more than you really are, and then you get that dopamine hit of engagement and a couple of people of liking your posts, and all of a sudden you think you're a social media celebrity, and I don't do that at all. I just put everything out there. And, it took us 22 months. We've been in business now since 2022. November of 2022 is when we started, and we cold started, right? So when I tell people 0 customers, 0 revenue, we had nothing. We brunt force grew this thing up in the hardest freight market of all time that was out there, right? And people are still saying it, and it is, right? It's not easy. And it took us I think 20 months to do our first $1 million in top line revenue. And then by year 3 in business, we grew it to 1.2 million in 2025. That's where we brought it up to. And then now my very, very audacious goal for 2026 is to get to 10 million. And I think it can happen. There's nothing in my mind. Nobody's going to tell me anything that's going to deter me from that goal. But that is where we're going with it, because again, I see the opportunity that is out there. I know it's going to take a lot of work. I've been self-employed now for almost 6 years, and I have never had a guarantee customer when I went out and started a new venture. It's all been built from scratch. So it's I know the time and the commitment that it takes, but I also know the opportunities that are out there right now, and they're always going to be out there if you're willing to work for them.
Yeah. And Chris, when I see you are definitely a relationship builder, right? You've been doing this for a very long time. When you walk into, Manifest, if there's 1,500 people in the room, half of them know who you are or more, right? So you are the relationship builder. And my question, I guess, around that would be, you know, in the first year in business, how much of your percentage of the day were you making sales and relationships? And now, how much are you doing? Has it decreased now that you've got more of an operational workload, or what?
No, it did last year. Like that was our biggest, you know, we had, after we grew, right? It's always great when people are like, oh, we grew. Yes. But like, we also saw major operational flaws of what we weren't doing, right? Because it's like every business, when you're coming in and getting something off the ground, cash flow, revenue, those are your two biggest hurdles. That's where all of your attention really needs to be, because you have to really strong arm your way in to gain some of that consistency to come up. And we were we were unorganized in our sales process. Yes, we were making sales calls, but then we got busy and we stopped making sales calls at the level that we should, or we let that gap fall in. And, you know, we implemented a CRM late last year, and we're finally like up and running with it at a full level. We use Sales Dash for our CRM. And I'm not joking, Kyle, when I say, based on all the data we had compiled from our notes between our Google document and our Excel spreadsheet that we were using for business development at the time, going through all the conversations, the level of conversations we had and where they all stopped, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not just making this up. I wouldn't be surprised if we left $5 million in potential revenue on the table by not following up, because we were busy. We were executing, we were making money. It was great. But we got to that point in October of last year when things settled down. It calmed down a little bit in the open deck world. Me and my business partner sat down. We're like, we got to split, not like split up, but like his primary focus now, operations. He's quoting our customers. He's booking our trucks, calling shippers, calling receivers, doing all of that. My primary focus now, business development. I'm hammering the phones. I'm trying to get in front of people. That's my primary focus.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a secret here, right? I think you can get to $10 million this year, and there's two ways to do it, right? One is cross your fingers and hope you get a big enterprise shipper and that your bids are profitable, right? That might get you to 10 million. The other is this, and this is what I did at Yellow Diamond, is when we grew that thing, we built the operations in the Philippines, right? So track and trace, dispatch, customer service. So when that average position is $25,000 a year, you're saving $40,000 per person roughly in operations. What I did at Yellow Diamond was I tacked that on to all of our sales salaries, right? So when the average brokerage out there is paying $75K plus 10%, you know, Yellow Diamond was paying $50,000, $45,000 more than that. So we were able to move over people with strong books of business who said, hey, you know, I would love to work under a model with way more support from the Filipino team. And I would love to work under a model where I can make a better base salary and much more commission. So the best sellers in the country moved to Yellow Diamond because we created a best-in-class sales program.
Mm-hmm. How did you come to that conclusion? Because I think, you know, one of those things is, you know, again, contrary to, I'm very sarcastic, and I'm sure anybody who's listened to this show for a long time probably has picked up on that. But contrary to what you see on the internet, there isn't just a follow these 10 steps and you're a millionaire, right? How did you come to that conclusion, Kyle, where you're like, we have to make this change? Did you notice yourself spinning your wheels at a level that was just like unsustainable?
Well, I mean, there's a concept through the EOS operating system called right person and right seat, right? You've got to have the right people in the right seat. And there's such thing as a bad seat. And what I was watching happening in logistics, you know, through 2010 to 2020 was your track and trace people, your customer service people in America got less reliable, they got less happy, and the jobs were creating less utility for them than when I was doing it back in the early 2010s. So that led me to believe, right, this isn't kind of it's not a company by company problem, it's a USA problem, right? $50,000, $60,000 salaries here in the States are not moving the needle for anybody, right? It won't even allow them to lease a car. And so when I witnessed that these jobs are becoming bad seats, and again, by that I mean they're not paying enough money for you to move your life forward, that's when I decided, hey, well, what if I move this seat to the Philippines where they have perfect English And where that kind of salary, even half that salary, is going to take them 5 to 6 times more further. And so when I did that, what I watched is our operations get powered up, our salespeople get more confident. And that's how we did it. I think in 4 years, it was 0 million, 10 million, 15 million, 25 million, 40 million. It was bringing over the best salespeople.
What were some of those early hurdles that you may have went through in doing that, right? Because I think a lot of individuals, a lot of business owners probably share that sentiment, Kyle. I know I see it all the time, right? Oh, there's nobody wants to work out here. There's, or else they don't take the job seriously and everything else. So it's like, I feel like in today's environment, working remote or building a global team is a very real thing for a lot of companies. But I think the apprehension, and I'm sure you probably have this conversation, is how does this even happen? Like, what were some of those early hurdles that you've already ironed out where you're like, hey, we dealt with that. This is why we do it this way now.
Yeah, well, so again, these people have grown up in the computer era. They go to colleges just like we do, and they want to get jobs. And I think the most important thing here is really noting that, a basic level operations person from the Philippines at $2,000, a month is the equivalent of, and US people are making $60K. $2,000 a month in the Philippines is equivalent to probably a $300,000 a year salary here. So if you can imagine you had a freight brokerage that could hire track and trace and dispatch and pay them $300,000 a year, you would imagine what kind of workers you would get for that, right? People would be leaving different industries to take the job, right? You'd get really great people from manufacturing, they'd be coming in. And that's kind of just my thought process here.
Yeah. So like, how did we get to this point in the US, do you think, where like, is it an entitlement thing? Is it the generation before us didn't actually instill the values in hard work ethic that they maybe had? What do you think? Because I have my own thoughts on it, but I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, the number one thing is inflation, right? The cost of living here in the States is crazy. When I talk to people in the Philippines, I tell them this, if I go out to lunch with a friend to Chipotle, my bill here in the States is probably $38.
Yeah.
$38 in the Philippines will feed you for 2 months. And so it's just a completely different world out there.
Yeah, and that's like, man, it's funny you bring that up, right? Because like I look at it as, and I was talking about this earlier this week. I did a solo show and I was talking about this, and it was all around like managing your cash flow, and like it's the unexpected, like you can't budget for policy changes that come in and increase. And I was talking specifically about health insurance, right? Like being self-employed, my private health insurance that I pay for my family went from $800 a month to $1,400 a month because of the subsidies that they stopped, that's what they shut the government down for. So it's like, I look at that, and then my commercial policy for my work truck that I have, and my building insurance and everything, that increased as well. So it's like my P&L right now, I mean, $24,000 a year is just for insurance. Like, that's insane.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to get ahead right now over here. And so that's why when you build your business, you've got to build it with the correct cost structure, right? We're all brokers here, and there's a reason why we're brokers. We don't like assets. We don't like heavy expenses on our balance sheet. And people are feeling that as we've gone through the freight recession, right? So when you have an operational staff that costs you $60,000 per head, that's going to start to hurt in a down market. When you've got the competitive advantage over your competitors, and I forgot where I was going there, but you can just really knock it out of the park,
I know what you're talking about here, Kyle. And to me, I think like if you look at all the staffing, like the layoffs, and even under like, and I hate seeing businesses fail. I do not care what anybody says. I hate seeing companies go under. I think that there will be an even greater push to outsource more and more roles. I mean, again, I think C.H. Robinson is a great example of this on what they did with their AI implementation that came in. And, again, people are going to automate roles, like redundancies, that is where a lot of these things are going, because to turn a profit, I know, shocking, but that's what businesses are there for. They need to make money as well. They're not just a novelty item. They have to look at any and all options. How do we pack a bigger punch on a smaller budget? And as somebody who's bootstrapping his business, that is in the back of my mind at all times. How do I build my cash reserves up? How do I save for a rainy day? How do I pack a larger punch out there in the market? And those are the things that I'm constantly debating. And I think that the golden age of nearshore or outsourcing is about to embark upon the entire U.S. workforce. I truly, truly do. And again, I'm not hoping that anybody loses their job. I'm just saying that I understand how businesses think for the most part. I'm not an expert, but like at some point, it's got to give. Like if their costs are continuing to go up, not everybody looks at headcount as an investment. Unfortunately, a lot of companies look at headcount as a large expense, and they're going to chop at that as fast as they can, and they're going to look in other directions to continue to fill those spots.
Yeah, and you know, one of your comments you made, and I think this is important. Well, we've got operations that are now being augmented by AI. So that also devalues the US operational worker as well. And what person becomes more special in that environment? Who are the people that you need on your team that are rare? Well, it's the best salespeople with the best relationships in your country, in the country. So when you can focus on just that and have your operations already handled, that's how you grow your business for sure.
Yeah, it's man.
And hey, Chris, let me just say this point, right? So, you know, Thrivemodal, we serve every industry. I think you'd be deeply surprised to hear the industries that are already going crazy on this. I'm talking high-level finance and accounting companies that handle a Patriots quarterback's that's very famous private wealth. I'm talking about the big four consulting companies. Yeah. This is happening, right? I think we're 3 to 4 years away from the world becoming a worldwide workforce where companies are comprised of individuals from all over the world in the correct economies, just like goods are manufactured today. The reason we can do this is Wi-Fi, right? Individuals from the world for the last 15 years have been able to plug in from their homes to exactly the same information that we have here. The other interesting thing, right, is over the last 10 years, all the systems that we use have become quite similar, right? If you looked at maybe Salesforce back in the day, there was, you know, one option, then a bunch of them popped up, and really they're converging again to all be very similar and offer the same types of features because everybody's figured out we need all of these features. So because the programs that we use around the world are also becoming more similar, it's allowing people from other economies to plug in a way that they never could. And this is kind of funny, Chris, if you imagine this, 30 years ago, if you wanted to build a team in the Philippines, you'd have to print out a bunch of binders, put them in a shipping container, send them to the Philippines, send some people over there, get classroom space, teach for months, and then hope that you can get something going. That's just not the case anymore, that the Philippines have been plugged in from Wi-Fi, right? They know US logistics. They've heard of the track and trace job. They've heard of customer service. They've heard of collections, and they want to do it because it pays great money.
What do you think are some unforeseen hurdles that the transportation industry might encounter in 2026? I am of the mindset that there are too many people who are too skittish about, oh, it's going to improve. It's like any slight indicator that there's a increase in pricing is like all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's over. We're all going to be printing money, this and that. I'm of the mindset. I don't think that's going to happen at all. Again, I always like to say, Kyle, I hope I'm wrong because my freight brokerage would exponentially benefit if I am wrong. But my gut says 2026 is going to look like 2025 from a new opportunities perspective and everything, because I just think that there is so much going on in DC right now, and there is so much fight against policy that it's going to continue to drag on here. I really do. I just don't I hope I'm wrong, but I think 2026 is going to look just like 2025. And I think the cash reserves and runways for a lot of companies are unfortunately going to be on life support if they're not already on life support.
I actually have a more positive outlook for 2026. I'm being serious. I think we've seen so many large carriers go out of business that we're kind of reaching that inflection point where there are not enough assets, right? All it would take is a 5% increase, maybe an 8% increase in freight to turn this into a great market. And I think that will be fueled by domestic policy here in the States, our investments in our own energy, our investments in our own infrastructure and building. I think that's really going to pop logistics this year. That's my view on it.
I hope so, right, Kyle? Like at the end of the day, I hope that is what happens. I just, from my seat, I just call balls and strikes for where I see it. And, as somebody who's actively cold calling every single day, there has not been a change in sentiment that's out there. And it's more of coming from the perspective of this, Kyle, that every shipper out there has a roster of providers that could absorb any increase in volume that might hit their desk in the next 12 months. I don't know if that's going to open up the door. But again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that it does. I hope our infrastructure, like all the new construction, all the building, all goes gangbuster this year, because again, my brokerage would exponentially benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, freight goes in cycles, and your normal down cycle is only usually 18 months. This one has been close to 3.5, 4, gosh, it's 2026, 4.5 years at this point, right? Mathematically, as carriers go out of business, brokerages will start to win again. And mathematically, we've been in this too long for it not to pull itself back up. And then again, those factors here in the United States, that's why I think 2026 is going to be a good year, right? We might not see it till July, but even things starting to go well in July would make it a much better year than the last 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, I like my honest kind of sentiment as well, like with all the noise out there. I wear double blinders, right? Like I run the play. I know the play that we're going to run. I'm going to continue to run it because frankly, good economy, bad economy, high interest rates, low interest rates. For me, that is all irrelevant. I signed up when I went out on my own. I said, I'm all in. That comes with the highs. That comes with the lows. That comes with, I will figure it out. And that's just kind of my mentality, right? Like I got a family to feed, man. Like I can't take a couple of headlines and be like, oh, looks like I might not have to make any cold calls this quarter because Wall Street says, I don't care what anybody says, man, I'm going to win. Do you think that more people need that mentality? How much more people should be pouring fuel on the fire right now is what I'm saying essentially is you got to go out there and you got to do it no matter what.
Yeah, if you're growing a company in the early stages and you're the key relationship maker, you better only be selling all day, every day, and you better not have any excuses, right? Who cares what the interest rate is? Who cares how the market is? Whoever's making the most phone calls, right? When more people know that Yellow Diamond is an option to email to get freight quotes for, guess what? Yellow Diamond ships more freight. That's just what it is at the end of the day. And so if you get off that horn, guess what? Somebody else is on it and you're going to lose that opportunity. And you know this just as well as I do. Sometimes you call somebody that you think is going to be a great client for 5 years and you finally get them, but it's worthwhile, right? It's because you've been following up and all that stuff. And those are the type of customers that can really move the needle for you. So consistency is huge. Even from a conference schedule, right? If I look at Yellow Diamond and the Air Cargo Conference, year 1, it was just me. I knew no one. And I walked up to every booth kind of cold calling and saying who I was. Year 2, a few people remembered me. Year 3, I had a few clients. Year 4, 50% of the people were in the room were a client. In year 5, I was speaking on stage, and I think 19 of the 25 biggest freight forwarders in the world were our customers. And so that just shows you, hey, if I would have just gone year 1 and said that was enough, we would have never, reached the limits that we have. So that's why you always got to keep going.
Yeah, I love it. And I love hearing that from the trenches, right? And I think that is what more individuals need to be paying attention to out there, Kyle. This is for me personally, and this is just Chris Jolly, I hate theory. All right. I hate hearing theory from people who haven't actually done it, because my whole mentality is if you're so right, why aren't you building it? So it's like when I hear you who has done that, that's why I want people to hear this message, right? Like there's such a big difference between theory in action. And a lot of ideas die at the end of somebody's theory because they don't actually have the balls, I'll say, to go out there and execute upon it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I coach a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm a part of YPO and the Entrepreneurs Organization. And that's always what I tell them. So I coach many businesses under $1 million. I think 7 report to me in Atlanta. And all of them, I talk to them about this. I go, okay, where did your customers come from? Most of them say conferences. And I say, okay, well, how many conferences have you gone to in the last year and a half? And almost everybody says back to me, none, right? And I go, okay, well, let's get back to the basics. Let's go to where you found, your good stuff in the past. And when my people do that, and then they get out of the office by adding some great Filipinos, their business starts to grow again. So you've got to allow yourself to leave the office. You've got to decost your operation so you can feed your family. Like you said, you are making a mistake if you have 10 operations people at $70,000 each. That's a $700,000 expense. If you've got 10 people at $2,000 a month, that's a $150,000 year expense. Guess who gets that $550,000, Chris?
Yeah.
It's that easy. So if you've already got a brokerage that's running, all you do is move a few pieces out, and all of those salaries you will save. That's what Thrivemodal does. It's amazing. We do it in accounting and finance. We do it in marketing. We do it in construction. We do it in property management, vacation management. Almost every industry has taken this at this point.
Dude, I love it. Kyle, thank you so much for your time, man. I know you got to jump because, as I always say, guys, all my guests have day jobs and they're out there making things happen. But Kyle, how does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah, Kyle at Thrivemodal.com. Even if you guys are just entrepreneurs and want to talk to me, that's what I spend my time doing these days. Chris, I'm sad I'm going to miss you at Manifest. I hope you have me on again. The last thing I would say is if you're going to move freight, you got to move it with Chris's brokerage. What's your brokerage called, Chris?
Freight Coach Logistics, man. We're all about that brand.
There you go. Freight Coach Logistics. Also, Yellow Diamond Logistics is a great choice. Let's have that big 2026, everybody.
All right, let's do it. Kyle, thank you so much. That is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back.